In this world, people are constantly trying to prove something. They prove they are right. They prove they are worthy. They explain, over-explain, and sometimes even plead just to feel acknowledged. But the Stoic does not operate that way. A Stoic does not seek attention. A Stoic does not run after validation. A Stoic does not justify himself to the world because he understands that silence carries more weight than words ever will. What most people do when they feel wounded, rejected, or misread is they rush forward. They chase. They attempt to repair what is already broken by justifying themselves to people who already decided not to hear them. That impulse right there is weakness disguised as courage. You call someone and they ignore it. You send another message. You text again. You pour everything you feel into a long paragraph, hoping they will finally recognize your value. But here is the truth. The more you justify, the more you plead, the more authority you surrender. And that is not Stoic at all. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, had mastered the art of silence. Not because they felt nothing, but because they understood this deeply. The more we depend on things outside our control, the less power we actually hold. When you run after someone's attention or beg for their acknowledgement, you are transferring all your strength to them. You are saying, "My calm depends on how you react." But that is not calm. That is captivity. True strength is when someone wrongs you and you walk away without uttering a single word. Not out of arrogance, but because your self-worth does not scream. It does not chase. It does not justify itself. It quietly withdraws. This silence is not emptiness. It is discipline. It is self-respect. It is inner power that says, "I do not need you to hear me in order for me to hear myself." And this kind of silence frightens people, because when you refuse to react, they lose the grip they believed they had on you. So today we are going to talk about the kind of silence that cultivates power, not vulnerability. The kind of silence that makes people question what shifted. The kind of silence that allows your absence to communicate more than any message ever could. We are going to explore 6 profound truths, 6 reasons why silence is a Stoic superpower, and why those who practice it never chase, plead, or justify themselves. If you are exhausted from overgiving, if you have been misread, if you have ever gone after someone who turned their back on you, this is your turning point. Let this be the reminder your soul has been waiting for. Before we begin, please like this if it already speaks to you. Drop your thoughts in the comments as we go. Pass this along to someone who is ready to hear it, and subscribe for more content like this. And please, stay through the entire thing, because a single truth might change how you carry yourself going forward. Drop this in the comments right now. My silence is my strength. First truth. Silence makes people feel your absence rather than simply hear your words. Have you ever noticed something unexpected? The moment you stop justifying yourself, the moment you stop chasing, people begin to think. That is the paradox buried inside silence. It does not push people, it draws them in. Consider the last time someone hurt you. Maybe they pulled away, disrespected you, or turned cold. Your instinct likely screamed, "Say something, defend yourself, make them see your value." But here is what is real. The more you speak, the less they absorb. The more you pursue, the further they move. The more you justify, the less your words carry weight. But when you fall silent, they suddenly feel the emptiness of your absence more than they ever valued your presence. A person who does not understand your silence will likely not understand your words either. Stoics grasped this thousands of years ago, because silence creates an unease in people that noise never can. When you go quiet on someone who fully expected you to beg, When you step back instead of reacting, you force them to sit with something uncomfortable, which is themselves and their own behavior. Silence holds up a mirror. It communicates without speaking. I saw what you did. I felt how you treated me, but I respect myself far too much to spell it out for you. That kind of silence does not come from pride. It comes from clarity. You understand that if they truly cared, they would seek you out. If they actually respected you, they would be the ones reaching out. If they were emotionally aware, they would not need paragraphs to understand your worth. So you remain silent, and in that silence, you reclaim everything you once handed away. You stop spending your energy trying to be understood by those who do not even understand themselves. You stop attempting to heal through conversations with the wrong people. You stop looking for repair in places that caused the damage. And yes, it creates discomfort. Because your silence will shake them, it will confuse them, it will lead them to wonder why you are not reacting, why you did not respond, whether you stopped caring altogether. That is the moment power changes hands. Because silence carries one truth they cannot escape. You do not owe them anything anymore. Second truth. When you remain silent, you begin to hear the truth more clearly. The world is relentlessly loud, but silence teaches you to listen inward, not outward. In moments of heartbreak, betrayal, or confusion, most people rush to others for advice, for comfort, for a quick emotional release. They call friends, they scroll through their phones, they confront the very person who injured them, hoping a single conversation will fix what another person broke. But the Stoic takes a radically different path. He goes quiet, not because he is numb, but because he knows that real answers do not emerge from noise. They come from stillness. When you are silent in a true way, your mind begins to settle, and when it settles, the truth rises naturally. You begin to hear things like, "They never truly respected me, and I refuse to accept it. I am not angry that they left. I am angry that I remained far too long. I do not need their explanation. I need my own peace." These realizations do not arrive through messages. They come in the quiet moments when you stop explaining and begin listening to yourself. Silence gives you the space to untangle your emotions from your values, because when pain is fresh, emotions demand that you chase, that you explain, that you fight to be seen. But when you are still, your values speak gently. Protect your dignity, guard your peace, release them, and move forward. This is why the Stoics did not act impulsively. They did not decide anything from a place of anger. They welcomed a kind of sacred stillness, a pause before the reaction. Modern culture teaches the opposite. Speak your mind, express your feelings, do not let anyone walk over you. But what most people overlook is this. You do not earn respect by reacting louder. You earn it by remaining rooted in silence while everyone around you unravels in noise. The more still you become, the more clearly people reveal themselves. You do not need to ask whether they care. Their actions will answer that. You do not need to demand honesty. The truth surfaces in your stillness. And above all, you stop reacting to life and begin responding with intention. Silence is not passive. It is focused. It is deliberate. It is the doorway to self-knowledge that most people never choose to walk through. So when you are uncertain, when you are overwhelmed, when emotion clouds your vision, do not act. Be still. The answer you are looking for is not outside. It is within you, and silence is how you find it. Third truth. Chasing closure is a form of abandoning yourself. Let us talk about something most people are not willing to admit. Chasing closure typically ends in deeper pain, not in peace. We all want it, that final, honest conversation, the ending that feels whole and resolved. But the brutal reality is this: if someone truly valued you, you would not need to beg for closure. They would have given it to you with dignity. And if they did not, your silence becomes the closure itself. Stop telling people what you believe. Embody it instead. When you stop chasing closure and begin living your values, you stop needing another person to validate what you went through. The pain is entirely real, but needing them to explain why they hurt you means you are giving them authority over your own healing. Here is how the pattern works. They hurt you. You demand answers. They respond with distance or silence. You feel worse than before. And the loop continues until you realize that closure is not something another person hands you. It is something you claim for yourself the moment you go quiet and simply walk away. You convince yourself that if you just express how you feel, if you just explain your perspective, if you just have one final conversation, everything will click into place. But what actually happens is you end up speaking to someone who has already accepted hurting you. You end up justifying yourself to someone who has already moved on from their decision. You end up spending emotional energy on a conversation that was never going to change anything. That is not closure. That is self-erasure. The Stoics understood that emotions distort perspective, particularly when self-respect is involved. You want to be seen as the one who was right. You want to be heard and understood. You want them to finally get it. But pursuing that need is a betrayal of your own growth. Real closure is this: you accept that what they gave you was the most they were capable of giving. You recognize that no explanation will make them kinder, more respectful, or more honest. You stop waiting on a conversation that will not happen, and in that acceptance, your power returns to you completely. The people who hurt you do not need to understand your worth. You do. The people who left do not need to say their goodbyes. You can move on without a word. The people who disappeared do not deserve another chance. Your silence is already their answer. So stop writing the messages you never send. Stop rehearsing what you will say. Stop chasing resolution in people who were never truly open. Go quiet. And let that silence be the space where your self-respect finally gets to breathe. Fourth truth: silence reveals what words are designed to hide. When you go silent, something remarkable begins to happen. Layers fall away. Words can be extraordinary, but they can also be deeply misleading. People say what sounds appropriate. They say what they believe you want to hear. They offer justifications, apologies, and explanations. But silence cannot be faked. What a person does speaks so powerfully that their words become irrelevant. The Stoics understood this intuitively. They did not assess someone by their apologies. They assessed them by their patterns. And the clearest way to observe someone's pattern is to stop speaking and simply watch them. Silence is not passive. It is highly observant. When you withdraw your words, you give people room to show you exactly who they are. And believe this, they will. The person who genuinely values you will notice your absence and reach out with sincerity. The one who only used your presence will disappear because they never truly appreciated you. The one who manipulated you will grow irritated or bewildered, not because you wronged them, but because they no longer have the ability to influence your reaction. Most people do not realize this. Words can build illusions. Silence dismantles them. You do not need to confront. You do not need to run any kind of test. Simply withdraw your voice and observe carefully. Notice who reaches out when you grow quiet. Notice who vanishes the moment you stop giving. Notice who becomes unsettled when they cannot provoke a reaction from you. That is the truth. And it may be difficult, but it is the truth you need. Sometimes silence carries more power than any confrontation could, because people can dismiss what you say, but they cannot dismiss your absence. They can debate your arguments, but they cannot argue with your stillness. When you remain quiet, you stop feeding their narrative. You stop participating in their emotional games. You stop pretending their words hold more weight than their actions. And this kind of silence brings extraordinary clarity. You stop needing them to explain why they treated you the way they did, because their patterns already told you everything. You begin trusting behavior over promises. You begin placing your belief in energy rather than explanations. You begin honoring what is genuine over what is spoken. That is Stoicism at its core. It is not coldness, it is clarity. It is not distance, it is discernment. It is not the absence of emotion, it is emotional discipline. So the next time someone attempts to talk their way back into your life, resist the urge to respond immediately. Watch. Stay quiet and allow the truth to surface without a single word being exchanged. Fifth truth. Choosing not to explain yourself is the highest expression of self-confidence. Let us be honest about something. When someone misreads you, it hurts. You feel the pull to defend yourself, to clarify, to make them see who you truly are. But the Stoic does not chase understanding from other people. He seeks it within himself. Why? Because explaining yourself to people who have already formed their conclusions is not confidence. It is a fear of being misjudged. You should not spend the remaining days of your life consumed by the perception others have of you. Think about what that truly means. Every moment you spend trying to convince someone of your goodness, your loyalty, or your worth, you are investing your limited time in someone else's judgment. That is not strength. That is anxiety. The person who chooses not to explain himself is not cold or arrogant. He is at peace because he already knows his intentions are honest. His actions are aligned with his values. His worth does not require translation for people who are not genuinely interested in understanding it. This level of inner freedom is not easy to reach. People will call you distant. They will label you selfish. You may even lose people you once felt close to. But losing those who never truly saw you is not a loss. It is alignment. Here is the truth that nobody likes to hear. Most people do not actually want to understand you. They want to control the story about you. And when your silence disrupts that story, they become frustrated. Not because you hurt them, but because you stopped playing the role they assigned to you. When you stop justifying yourself, you begin leading with your energy. You stop excusing your boundaries. You stop explaining why you walked away. You stop defending your peace to those who violated it. You simply live according to your values. And those who are meant to be part of your life will understand that silence without needing any explanation at all. This kind of presence is rare. It unsettles manipulators. It frustrates those who depend on your reaction. It sends away people who only stayed because you kept justifying yourself to them. But those who remain will hold a deep respect for you because they know your worth is not something you negotiate or explain away. That is Stoic silence in its truest expression, not loud, not desperate, not theatrical, simply calm, grounded, and unshakable. You do not owe anyone a justification for choosing your own peace. You do not need anyone's approval for the boundary you chose to honor. You do not need to argue for your value in rooms where your silence has already made the statement for you. Sixth truth. Your quiet detachment is the most powerful lesson you will ever teach them. There is something uniquely commanding about a person who simply walks away, not in anger, not with drama, just in quiet, dignified detachment. No slammed doors, no final emotional speeches, no last chance messages. You simply withdraw. And in that silence, you teach a lesson that no amount of words ever could. We often suffer far more in our imagination than in the reality itself. This truth matters here because when you stop responding, the other person is left entirely alone with their own thoughts, with what they chose to do, with how they treated you, with the memory of who you were to them and the echo of a space you no longer fill. Your detachment communicates something powerful without a single syllable. I no longer feel the need to justify my presence to you. I will not remain in spaces where I am not genuinely valued. I have realized that peace is worth more than forced connection. Most people do not know how to receive this kind of energy. They are accustomed to people who fight back, who chase after them, who break apart trying to be heard. But when you go quiet, you stop engaging in the emotional tug of war altogether. You leave with your dignity fully intact, and your silence forces them to face themselves. They anticipated that you would chase. They counted on you staying or coming back. They did not truly believe you would simply walk away without explanation. But you do, and that unsettles them in ways no argument ever could. Because suddenly your energy is no longer accessible to them. The power they assumed they held over you dissolves. They begin to realize they underestimated you. That is when the real lesson begins. Because people rarely change from words alone. They learn from distance. They do not shift when you demand respect loudly. They shift, if they ever do, when your absence shows them clearly what they chose to throw away. And if they never learn that lesson, that is acceptable too, because the most important lesson was never meant for them. It was meant for you. You learned that your peace is not something that requires permission. You learned that not everyone deserves an explanation from you. You learned that silence is not always just strength. Sometimes it is also the path to healing. When you detach in silence, you remove yourself from patterns that were slowly diminishing you. You stop bleeding openly in front of people who were never equipped to understand your pain. You stop explaining difficult weather to people who have never stepped outside. Detachment does not mean you stopped caring. It means you care so deeply about your own well-being that you refuse to leave it in places where it was being slowly destroyed. This is precisely why the Stoics did not react impulsively. They did not seek justice through confrontation. They did not reach for validation from those around them. They simply allowed their silence to carry their message. You do not need to announce that you are finished. You can simply be finished, quietly and completely. That is real power. That is the kind of silence that shakes the people who believed they had control over you. So do not be afraid to detach from what is draining you. Go quiet. Step back and allow them to sit in the stillness where your presence used to live. If you have stayed through all of this, then something has already shifted inside you, a quiet recognition, a truth that has lived in you for a long time, but perhaps got buried under the noise. You do not have to chase, plead, or justify yourself in order to be worthy of love and respect. You do not have to be loud to be genuinely heard. You do not have to prove yourself to be understood by the right people. You do not have to sacrifice your own peace just to make someone else comfortable. That is the foundation that Stoicism is built upon. It is not about being cold. It is about being clear. It is not about withdrawing from love. It is about withdrawing from chaos. The Stoics left us with something enduring. Silence is not weakness. It is mastery. It is the refusal to exhaust yourself on what no longer deserves your energy. It is the deep assurance that your presence carries value even when it is gone. There will always be moments when your emotions want to override everything. when you will feel the overwhelming urge to explain yourself, to argue, to make someone understand. But in those moments, hold on to this. Your silence may not win the argument, but it will win you back. Because every time you choose not to react, you strengthen your inner foundation. Every time you walk away with grace, you rebuild your sense of self-worth. Every time you protect your dignity without making a scene, you develop the kind of power that no one can take from you. And if there is only one thing to carry from everything shared here, let it be this. Let your silence be your final statement, not out of pride, not out of bitterness, but out of a deep, steady, unshakable respect for yourself. Thank you for being here. If this reached something inside you, please share it with someone who needs it today. Leave your affirmations in the comments. Your presence in this community matters. And stay connected for more Stoic truth every single week. Drop this in the comments before you go. My silence is my final word, and it is the most powerful one I have.